Welcome to Cocktail Mode, the podcast where me, Andy, and my mate Dave, we haven't done a hello Dave for a while. Say hello, Dave.
No.
That's Dave. We talk about an old video game primarily. Today we're talking about Crazy Taxi, and then we try and pair a cocktail with that game, which we'll come to towards the end of the episode. I'd just like to say, if you're a fan of Crazy Taxi, or if you're a fan of cocktails, or if you're just a fan of us, heaven forbid. I mean, imagine such a thing. We'd love it if you left us a comment on whatever platform you're listening to. They'll all come through to us. Let us know what you think of the game. Let us know what you think of the podcast. It would be really, really cool if you did. So, Crazy Taxi. Played it this week?
I have. Absolutely loved it. Tried it on an emulator first. I've got a Dreamcast emulator. I thought I'll give that a go. It's mixed results on games I've tried on it.
Yeah.
I do actually own the game somewhere. I'm sure I've got it. And a Dreamcast. I don't know where either of the two things are. I kind of do. I just can't bother to go and get them.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
But no, I played it on an emulator. Functional, works. Some of the sound is a bit iffy, but generally speaking, worked pretty well. Yeah, it came flooding back as soon as I loaded it up. I was like, oh yeah, stick it in reverse, quick flick of forward gear and accelerate to get the speed boost, started drifting. Couldn't remember where to go for anything.
No.
Luckily, it's got a nice big arrow. But no, the main playtime I had on the game was the version that's on Steam.
Yeah.
Which is the tarted up re-released version. Soundtrack isn't the same, but it's very, very good. Very fast, very frenetic. Like I remember the original being.
Well, it was 60 FPS on the Dreamcast. Yeah. It wasn't fucking about.
It was bastard fast.
Yeah.
I remember playing it and thinking, Jesus Christ, this runs so quick.
Yes, and smooth as you say it, and just really, really slick. There are mods in the, what's it, Steam Works, the sort of the mod section of Steam, is that what it's called? Something like that? For adding the soundtrack, and the shops aren't right, are they? It's not.
No, they're not licensed, so you've lost KFC, Tower Records.
Yeah.
What are the other two? Pizza Hut? Is it Pizza Hut?
Pizza Hut's there. Is it The Gap? I think The Gap's in there.
Oh, it's Fila.
That's it.
Fila, the tracksuit and training people.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so people have mixed results. Apparently, for some people, the soundtrack doesn't work, but the sponsorship stuff. I mean, that's minor.
That's really nitpicky.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get it. I get that people want the original experience and those brands being in it. I mean, but if if what you're looking for in Crazy Taxi is the realism of having really real name branded shops in there, you're playing the wrong game, my friend.
To be fair, though, it's not often that you'll have real life advertising in a game that people like.
Yeah, great shout, mate. I hadn't thought of that. It's so true, isn't it? Normally that's the sort of thing people go, oh my God, what have they done?
Yeah.
I downloaded for Windows Crazy Taxi free.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the easiest way for me to play it.
Yeah. Any good?
I mean, yes. I mean, to be fair, it is good, yes. But I can't find, there's not much talk about it, and it's not listed anywhere. But I started up the game in West Coast, and it's got all the licenses, or so I'd read. And S Club fucking 7 come on the radio.
Oh, no.
Don't stop, never give up, hold your head high.
Fucking hell.
And I don't know if this is some weird year, because the other track that came on was the weird EDM dance thing as well.
Oh, no, it's wrong.
Yeah, and I looked it up, and it said, when you Google it, it will say bad religion, offspring. I think there are a couple of different ones on free, but this version that I've got, fucking S Club 7, it's so weird. Didn't enjoy that. Are you a fan of those two bands?
Yes, very much so.
Offspring and Bad Religion.
Yeah, Bad Religion more so.
Yes.
At the time, I was going off Offspring because that's when they started their jokey song era.
Give It To Me, Baby.
Pretty fly for a white guy.
Ugh.
And then, what was the other one? Something like, Nana, why don't you get a job?
Yes, it was.
Which is to the tune of Obla Dee, Obla Da.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to steal a Beatles song, why not do the worst one?
Yeah. Yeah. I always thought it was odd. I remember listening to it for the first time thinking, wait a minute, I know this tune.
The B-side probably sampled fucking Yellow Submarine.
Realistically, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's still not a great song.
No,
way.
I mean, it doesn't matter what tune you steal, it's shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not a fan of Oasis, but I didn't realise that for a while, because the first song I knew of theirs was Shaker Maker, which is a slightly grungy Britpop song to the tune of I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing, which I thought was great. And then everything else they did was arse. As you say, that's when Offspring became popular, so that's all I know of Offspring. As far as I'm aware, Offspring to me were those two terrible songs. Why Don't You Get a Job and Pretty
Flying for a White Guy.
Fucking awful song. And then those two songs, or that one song, or that part of a song, because it's not even the whole fucking thing, is it?
Yeah, I realised that when I was playing the game earlier. I was like, what? Wait, the song stopped and another one started. It was a bit strange.
I have a really annoying habit, and I know it's an annoying habit, but I can't have it in it. If I get a song...
Oh, you've got lots.
Oh, yeah, that's very, very true. One of my most annoying habits is I get a song stuck in my head that I only know a single line to.
Oh yeah, loads of people do.
Yeah, it's not uncommon, but then I go about singing that single line all day, remorselessly. And so that obviously that's something that Gemma hates, because when she listens to music, she was one of those kids that when they were young used to get a tape of a song and listen to it and then stop it and learn the lyric and then listen to it and then stop it, and so she could learn all the lyrics to a song.
Bloody hell. I'd listen to a song on repeat, but I wouldn't do that.
No, she would like sort of, I suspect with Gemma being Gemma, she might have written it down, because she likes writing, so she probably listened to a bit, wrote it down, listened to, just so she could learn all the lyrics. And there's me going, I don't know, this town, it's coming like a ghost. I thought like all day, just that bit over and over and over again. And I was playing Crazy Taxi earlier in the week, and she just comes.
Have you just been walking around going, yeah?
No, I had the actual game on and had the volume up, didn't have my headphones on, and she just come to the door and went, I love you, but that game is like listening to you sing all day, and slammed the door shut.
How many of your conversations start with, I love you, but?
Far too many.
Yeah, I was playing the game earlier, and the songs are on, obviously, the Dreamcast version, but not on the version that's been re-released on Steam, which is the one I just bought for £6.
Christ.
That's worth it. Because it's a very, very good modern remake of it.
Yeah.
But the music in it is, to be fair to the bands that are on it, subpar. I won't say it's awful, but it's not what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking at the credits after I've actually finished a run, there's all these bands that you've never heard of, songs that you've never heard of, all from one record label, which probably didn't get paid. It was probably just we'll do this for the exposure kind of thing. Which, so fair enough. I'm not gonna say that the music is awful. It's just not the original soundtrack.
No.
But I did probably, thinking back, even though I'm a big fan of both The Offspring and Bad Religion, I'm pretty sure at the time I would have turned the music off and listened to my own slightly longer playlist. Which probably even had those two songs on it.
Maybe.
Because this is back in the day of like 2000s. I would have had mini disc, certainly the ability to make my own mixtapes or mix mini discs or whatever. So I would have just put together a playlist of songs that would have worked just as well.
Well, I think you were in that position, aren't you? That's very much.
Well, that's the thing. It was my kind of music back then. So it's very much like, I can just take those two songs as my starting point, add a few others in there from bands like Rancid, Less Than Jake, and make a much longer playlist that's still in the same style. Same with Tony Hawk's. Didn't need to do it so much with Tony Hawk's because there were more than two songs.
Yes, and arguably most of them are better as well. But I think that is interesting. I mean, it's a good comparison to Tony Hawk's, because we talked a lot in Tony Hawk's about Superman.
Superman is the Goldfinger song,
Yeah, so I think that song and that... What is the song called? The Offspring song?
All I Want, that's it.
How can you forget it? I mean, for fuck's sake, the amount I've played that game and heard that song this week, and I can't remember it when I need to. I mean, they're very similar. I think that's the song I think of with Tony Hawk, and that's the song I think of with Crazy Taxi.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a lover of 10 in 2010. That's always been one of my favourite Bad Religion songs. When a lot of people play this game for the first time, they hear those songs for the first time. I wasn't. I don't think I'd heard the Offspring song much, but I knew it.
Yeah.
But I knew the Bad Religion song really well. And so straight away, I was like, ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I have a proper soundtrack of music I already like, so I don't have to turn it down and play my own music like every other game in existence.
I was one of those people. I'd never heard those songs before.
Mm.
I've always liked punk, but pop punk kind of, I found it quite difficult to navigate because I thought, as I say, these were the first, not All I Want, but Pretty Fly for a White Guy was the first I knew of the Offspring. So I just thought they were shit.
Yeah.
And just that was the end of it. So that's what I thought. And so, you know, it was games, particularly Crazy Taxi and Tony Hawk, that started to change my opinion of that a little bit, because those were clearly in the same genre, but much, much better pieces of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, synonymous is the word, isn't it? It's when I turned on Crazy Taxi and played it and it started, I didn't immediately want to turn it off. And I think
but it did happen.
Well, it happened when I started doing the Crazy Box.
Oh, yeah, because you start the same thing over and over and you get the start of the song over and over, don't you?
You get about 30 seconds and for the challenges on Crazy Box, and that's the thing. Playing the game, I was all right with it. I just think they're so much part of the game, and they fit so well with
they do
the game, and it's really a great choice somebody made that then somebody shat on with S Club 7 many years later.
I genuinely hope that's not the real soundtrack, that somebody's made an odd version of that game.
I found a reference to it somewhere, but it was like on Reddit or something. I think it might be like the European release.
Oof.
The Windows European release, specifically. But yes, I would rather have that half an Offspring song. But it does, it brings it home what a great choice. And it wasn't just because it wasn't what I was used to. What a perfect choice Offspring and Bad Religion are, because they properly fit the game. And when I was given something else, it was properly weird.
Jarring.
Yeah.
Like, this is wrong. This isn't what this should be.
So talk to me about, briefly, talk to me about Bad Religion. Tell me about them.
Bad Religion are one of the longest running punk bands in the world. They formed in 1980.
Oh, wow.
So they're not by any means one of these sort of, second, third wave kind of bands like, I mean, Offspring formed in 86, 87. So they're not exactly new by any sort of means. No,
but that's kind of post-punk, isn't it? That late 80s.
Yeah. It's the second wave. It's the revival.
As the Dead Kennedys put it, we're not a punk rock band, we're a new wave band now. That kind of new wave came in and took over. The Dead Kennedys weren't talking about themselves when they said that. They were taking the piss out of the whole thing. Just to make that clear. But I think for 80 is obviously punk, but I mean, by the end it was a very short movement, wasn't it, punk? Well,
what we sort of think of as the original version of punk, very much the UK sort of Sex Pistols, Clash, bands like that.
Yeah.
That it was over in like 3 years. It moved over to the States and they kept it going, and it never really went away over there. And you could arguably say the same thing over here. There are bands still going that formed in the 70s.
Yeah.
And very early 80s, like UK Subs. I saw them a couple of years ago supporting someone. They're still going. They're in their 60s. Which is bizarre when you think about it, because it means that they were only teenagers when they started the band. Those bands from the late 70s, early 80s were very, very young kids.
Yeah, but that was, I mean, I don't, I'm not, I have a lot of respect for punk, but I wouldn't ever pretend to be it. But I think that youth and not adolescence, but certainly being young and very fucking angry about stuff. Mm-hmm. You and me, we're not angry anymore, are we?
No.
We shrug our shoulders and go, oh well.
Whatever.
Yeah. Whereas once upon a time, I was throwing glasses around and getting in fights and shit. And I think something like punk has to come from a young teenage and, if not 20-ish group. Punk coming from a 40-year-old would be shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
The thing is as well, punk as a movement was a reaction.
Yes.
There was a catalyst that formed it. It wasn't just, here's this new musical genre that we've come up with. It was very much a lifestyle. It was very much a feeling rather than just, let's play our guitars this way and call it something else.
I tell you what, one of my favourite quotes about punk comes from Mark Radcliffe. When I used to listen to the Mark and Lard show every day on the radio at work. And he was saying, I think he played a Westlife song. I'm going to say Westlife because, it could have been somebody else, but Westlife makes the point as good as anything. He played a Westlife song, and then he sort of stopped it. And there's a bit of silence, and he just sighed. And he went, I remember years and years, decades ago, he was like, I remember when everything on the radio sounded like that. And then punk happened. And he goes, how have we come back? How are we here again? I love that phrasing. And then punk happened. I can imagine at the time it was an explosion.
It was a kick in the balls.
Yeah,
to the music industry. It really was. But it was kind of a reaction to disco.
Yeah, the gentrified version of disco, not proper disco, not
it's pop. Pop.
It was this, and again that happened to punk, and that's what new wave was. And that always happens, doesn't it? And I just think that a movement happens. It happened with Britpop. It was our version of grunge. But for every Blur, there was a Ocean Colour scene.
That's not a good analogy, mate. Ocean Colour scene aren't a bad band.
I disagree. Lots of those bands, like Blur, like Pulp, Oasis, rode that wave and became popular without particularly having to change very much, I don't think. Particularly Pulp. Pulp never changed and were popular for a good long chunk of Britpop.
Well, they only changed in so much as they wanted to.
Yeah.
They did what they wanted. They'd make, a pretty off-the-wall album like This Is Hardcore.
Yes.
It was just bizarre.
Yeah.
It sits apart from a lot of their other albums.
Absolutely,
which you have to do if you're a genuine artist rather than just a band churning out hits.
Menswear. There you go.
Menswear.
So yeah, just
I was thinking dodgy.
There you go. Yeah,
would be the sort of opposite end of the Britpop scale. We had one good song, which wasn't even that good.
No, and I think that's the thing. I think with most musical movements start with soul and with heart and with from a place of feeling, and disco was as much that as anything else. You look into the history of disco, a deeply, deeply fascinating roots in black music, really, really interesting. But then record labels go, let's make a shit ton of money out of this, and you end up with fucking Boney M.
Should we get onto the game now?
Or
should we just stay on the music?
You were telling me about Bad Religion. You got as far as telling me they were very, very old, and we went down this rabbit hole.
They are very, very old. They're also incredibly interesting. Well, I say they are incredibly interesting. The lead singer of Bad Religion is a very, very interesting man. Greg Graffin. He is hyper intelligent.
Right.
Like more so than you would expect from anybody in any band. He's got PhDs, he's written books, he's a political scientist, he's a philosopher, he's amazing. He's just a very, very just beyond interesting person.
Yeah.
You see him live, he's got much more about him on stage than most other singers. Just as a person, I'd love to spend time with him. On the back of that, I thought, I'll Google Offspring, because I've never really read up on them much before. I know about the guy from Bad Religion. Didn't realise that Dexter Holland, lead singer of Offspring, is also a PhD scientist.
Really?
He worked on RNA sequencing on the HIV virus.
Fucking hell.
That's published and got him a PhD. What the fuck is going on with punk singers?
Yeah. He sounds pretty fly for a white guy.
Offspring's original drummer. He ended up as a gynecological oncologist.
Jesus Christ.
Again, MD, PhD. It's bizarre.
I'll try that gag again. He sounds pretty fly for a white guy.
Oh, Jesus.
Is exactly the response that deserves.
Yeah. But no, there seems to be this like running thing of singers in big successful bands being incredibly interesting people outside of it.
Jello Biafra, I mean, no one talk like the only punk band that knows the Dead Kennedy. It's not I Know the Clash as well, but that's that's not pretty much it. But Jello Biafra is a fascinating bloke. He's really, really deep thinking about stuff. He's really clearly a very intelligent man as well.
But I think it's part and parcel of punk because it's very much a sociological genre.
Yeah.
Getting your opinion out there, getting your thoughts out there. It's not just mindless
No.
churn out music.
And it does tend to me, as much as I don't want to pretend that punk is all anger, because it's not, but it comes from a place of disenfranchisement.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you understand society, the more as a working class man, or sorry, a working class person, you're going to be disenfranchised with it most of the time. And I think, ignorance is bliss to a lot of people, but if you're smart enough to understand what's going on, you're often smart enough to get angry about it.
Yeah, or you should get angry about it.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've been playing it on the original hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the original music and all that stuff built into it, and beautiful on a CRT 60 hertz, and it is a stunning looking game. I mean, it is bottled Sega, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is. Oh, sorry, maybe not even bottled Sega, but bottled Dreamcast.
Yeah. Oh, it defines the Dreamcast probably better than any other game.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one Dreamcast game to show somebody and say, right, this sums up what this machine was.
Yeah, I mean, on so many levels. I mean, just on that instant play, the bright, the colourful, the loud, all that sort of stuff, but also in the fact that it is almost like you would have to be a much more clued up person than I am to pick the difference between it and the arcade version.
Well, the Dreamcast basically was arcade hardware, wasn't it? Or vice versa.
The Naomi, very much. Yeah, Model 2, I think it is Naomi.
Yeah, it's effectively a Dreamcast in an arcade cabinet.
Different RAM, quite a low amount of onboard RAM on the Dreamcast, and I think that's where differences occurred, but I can't tell the difference. Other than, which I've always thought, because I played the arcade version of Crazy Taxi before I played it on the Dreamcast.
Yes.
In the Trocadero, and I think there's definitely a missed trick with the Dreamcast version. The stick shift, which is integral to the gameplay, as you were just saying, for hitting boosts and hitting drifts, is free position on the arcade. It sits naturally in neutral, and it is spring loaded, so you push it up into drive, it will spring back into neutral.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's not like a clunk sit it into thing. It's very much a hand on throttle kind of thing.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, which works when you know how the game works. I'll go into that in a sec. That it's natural that's the thing, that it goes into drive, and when you're playing the game on the Dreamcast, you have to imagine that. I say on the Dreamcast, the game's been released on fucking everything. But to me...
We're talking about the Dreamcast version because that's what we played on.
Yeah, for all our intents and purposes, most of the time, the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox don't exist. But yeah, you have to kind of imagine that when you click it into drive on the button on the Dreamcast, you have to kind of mentally imagine it going back into the neutral position, because that's where it is, and holding it up, holding the button down to hold it up. So I just think it's a real missed trick. I think if that little indicator on the screen, just when you weren't holding it down, just click back into a central position, it'd be a much better representation of what the arcade and how that stick worked, and I think it'd help you to understand that better. But this is extreme nitpicking in the what are they called, Crazy Box, the little mini game thing, which is harder than the game for some reason. And I remember, I think it was you and me playing it on like past the controller mode, trying to beat high scores and things for fucking ages, spending so long playing it. Yeah, that ridiculous jump. The tips it gives you on it says press start for a tip, and it tells you how to do the moves. Most of them are wrong. They're not right. It's just bizarre. It's like that is not enough detail for me to pull this move off. It's really, really weird. It goes to show, I think, and it's true of the whole game, it is one of those games you can pick up and play it and love it immediately. Yeah. But it is that whole trope of easy to play, hard to master.
I think it's the literal definition of that. Anybody can play that within 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Of being given the controller and saying, that's go, that's stop, that's change the gears up and down. Yeah. Okay, off you go.
And love it as well, and enjoy it. And for that level of, without going into any detail, really, really enjoy it. All the driver characters and even the people you pick up have characteristics and something about them. It's such a fun game. And I know that's a really basic way of putting it, but it's a happy place, isn't it? West Coast.
Oh, it's joyful.
Is a happy place to be.
I'm not sure the people in the cars that you destroy and batter off the road are particularly happy with you, but everyone else is having a great time.
Everyone really is having a great time, aren't they? I mean,
yeah, it's great.
like jumping out of buildings and over cars and doing drifts and all this shit and driving it underwater. And getting tips for it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, here, have more money.
Yeah, if my Uber decides to go off-road through a lake, I'm not going to give him more money.
I've talked about muscle memory before and how quickly games come back to you.
Mm.
I hadn't played it for a long time.
I haven't played it for decades.
Yeah, I think.
I'm pretty sure.
I got an S ranking on my second go.
Oh, third.
This is how brilliant. I mean, that's great. And
I got a C, then a B, then an S.
I always go to the original map. That's always the one I want to do. It's always the one that is Crazy Taxi to me. It's like.
Well, it starts with that giant San Francisco-esque hill, doesn't it?
Yes.
Which is great fun.
Straight down that with the trolleys and that, and when you know how to do the crazy boost properly, you get so much speed at that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you just crash into a building at the bottom. That's my favourite. Stop. You want to stop in that game? Just hit a tree. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You just do the drift to get out of it afterwards, and you just come to a dead stop. You use exactly the right word. It's just joyous, isn't it? It's a brilliant thing.
It is. It's great. From the second it starts,
yeah,
it's bright, it's brash, it's colourful. It's an arcade game in your house.
Yeah.
It shouts at you to play it. It literally shouts at you. Go on, let's go play. Okay,
come over here and make some crazy money.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. In fact, I'd forgotten how much fun it was.
Yeah,
because it's one of those sort of, you look back at it and you think, oh yeah, I remember that being really good fun. No, it's a great time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the fact that if you fail to get somebody where they want to go on time, they just jump out of their car.
That's part of the problem of driving a convertible. They can just leave.
It's one of those things that, I mean, like an S ranking playthrough that will take 5 or 6 minutes, if that.
Yeah, it's not long at all.
No, and so
it's very short, sharp bursts of gameplay.
Yeah, it's an arcade game. Let's say, but yeah, it's an arcade game that if you took those skills now to an arcade, then your £1 or whatever you put in it, that's what it would get you, isn't it? It wouldn't.
Yeah.
You can put more money in, but it's rewards the skill. I mean, I don't know whether more than other games, but it's just you can be, if you're quite good at it, you'll go for a much longer time.
That was an intentional design choice, though.
Was it?
During development, the guy Kenji Kano, who designed it, was very much, I don't want it to be a chuck in 30p or whatever that is in yen to play for 3 minutes. I want it to be, you get your time, but also your time is extended. If you do well, it does reward you.
I can't remember the exact details. We talked about it in the Golden Axe episode. There's a relationship, isn't there? Like 1 credit should get you X minutes of play, and then you'll find in your game that after X many minutes, suddenly you're going to hit quite a tough bit until you put in more money. So, and that's it. And you're right, it doesn't seem to follow that ethos. And so I like the things like just the little tricks you start to pick up. Like if you're running out of time, it extends your time to. So if you pick up a red passenger, the passengers are color coded in case anyone's listening doesn't know. And
green, yellow, orange, red.
Yeah, and so that's the distance they want to travel, and therefore the amount of money you can earn, but also the amount of time you take to get them there. So if you've got 1 second left and you pick up a red passenger, it extends your time to
an appropriate amount.
Yeah. And then if you do brilliantly at that, which is obviously a bit easier to do when you've got more time, because it means further sort of more shortcuts. So you can it feels like you're getting yourself back into the game. It's a really rewarding game. When quite glibly said, easy to play, hard to master. There are things in it that are under the surface that you kind of pick up as you go along. They're not hidden. You just have to play the game to learn them.
I think the first time you do a lot of things, you think, oh shit, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Like if you're pulling in to drop somebody off and you see there's somebody in the drop-off zone, stop on that person.
Yeah.
First one jumps out, next one jumps in, off you go.
Yeah.
You get that extra 3 or 4 seconds.
And it's such a big deal in game. It's like when you scream up, if you can not nearly run over your person.
And also if you can stop quickly, if you do like a slide into a wall or something.
As the podcast resident gold medal winning archer, how do you patent an arrow?
in terms of this, it's the guidance system.
Right. Is that what they patented?
Yeah, it's the arrow navigation system and pedestrian avoidance aspects. I haven't got a in-depth listing of the whole thing because I do not want to read up on patent law.
We've got few enough listeners as it is, mate. We don't want to lose the ones we do.
I can only do so much research. I'm not going that far. I'm not going to get a law degree just to tell you about the patent infringement that was done. So basically, the story is that the Simpsons, what was the game?
Road Rage, that
was it. Game ripped off massively. Crazy Taxi.
It is Crazy Taxi without the special moves, weirdly.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of it takes away that hard to master part, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Therefore you've got a game that's easy to play. I've never played Road Rage. It's well loved. People have got a lot of nostalgia for Simpsons Road Rage. I've never played it.
No, never played it, and didn't even know about this.
No, hearing that it's a Crazy Taxi clone makes me want to play it more.
Yeah, or at least have a look.
Yeah, but it's apparently it's quite a technically well-made package.
I was going to say, is it a fairly faithful recreation of Springfield?
I mean, unlike Die Hard, it has all the original voice actors in it.
You mean that wasn't Samuel L. Jackson?
So apparently, it's a well-made product, and we joke about patenting arrows and that system, but they did sue and it got settled out of court. I don't know what happened exactly, but they did sue. I guess Fox for making
Fox Interactive, EA, and the actual developers of the game.
Crazy Taxi 3. Crazy Taxi 3 was on the Xbox.
I
mean, like Sega went into partnership pretty much with Microsoft. I don't know, officially or unofficially. The sequel to Jet Set Radio was Xbox only. Sequel to Crazy Taxi 2 was a Dreamcast game, but Crazy Taxi 3 was a Microsoft Xbox and PC exclusive. And I think it's like they went into business with the one company that hadn't fucked them over in the past.
Yeah.
Like these two, Nintendo have bested us basically, and Sony have come along as a new upstart and beat us and with very similar hardware, and so we're going to go with the other guy.
Yeah, well, you would, wouldn't you?
I guess so. I mean, they're just,
if you decide that we're not competitive in this market anymore, you're not just instantly going to get into bed with the people who forced you out of that market, are you?
No, I suppose not. And to me, and I think you may have even mentioned it before, it's still weird to me seeing Sonic on Nintendo hardware in games. It's just bizarre.
It is odd.
As a child of the 90s, this is not okay. This is not cool.
Realistically, I don't care.
Oh, absolutely.
I just find it odd.
I don't even like Sonic.
It will not change my life.
No, not even it. But this is, as I was saying earlier, this is very not punk of us, mate. We should be getting angry about this. Who do you go for? Who's your character?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I've forgotten his fucking name. It's the one that looks more like a sort of curvy 50s style cab.
Gus.
Is it Gus?
Gus, yeah, the far right. He's on the right of the...
Yeah, oldish guy.
Yeah, that's Gus.
I can't remember.
I don't think he's got...
Yeah, I like that car. It always reminded me of the taxi from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes, yeah, very similar, yeah. Gus, who you described as the older dude, is supposed to be 42. That's younger than you, my friend.
Fuck you.
So there's Axel with the kind of punk looking guy.
Axel with the caddy.
Yeah, greenish blue hair, young guy.
Yeah.
And then BD Joe.
Any indication of what BD stands for?
I think that's a mystery lost to time. And then of course there's Gina, who was my go-to. Obviously,
of course, you always play the chick. Didn't you?
I always play the chick, the girl, the woman, the. Generally, just because I tend to gravitate towards female characters. Apparently, their cars handle and perform differently. I've never. Really
I did read that they've got slightly different attributes. I've never noticed them.
No, it's not exactly a precision game, is it?
It's also not a game that shows like stats.
No,
like there's no top speed indicator or anything. Yeah. I don't think there's even a speedo in the game, is there?
I mean, in fact, we haven't noticed.
The fact that I can't even remember.
That's kind of, if there is one, that's a waste of screen real estate. because you're not looking at it. I know the shifter is indicated on screen.
Yeah.
And I think in the later games, there seems to be a bit more clutter on the screen as well. But in the original, you might be right. I don't think there's anything on screen.
I don't think there's any point, is there?
No.
Why would you bother?
What do you need to know? You need to know where. Well, the arrow tells you where you're going. The clock tells you how long you've got to get there, and the passenger bouncing around in your back seat tells you how well you're doing. And that's it.
Did Crazy Taxi do anything with the VMU? Because quite often games had little stats, or the GPS arrow might have been on there or something.
Yeah.
They sometimes had little standalone games, didn't they?
I know during the game it was just the logo, so I spotted that when I was playing it. I don't think there was anything after it either. So no, I don't think there was. I think it was a very early game, wasn't it? If it wasn't launch, it was certainly close to
within the first year.
But yeah, I don't think there was anything.
That's a shame.
I'm on a bit of a quest now. It's probably going to be my next game when I start getting decent pay again. I think Crazy Taxi 2 might be the next game I pick up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mortified to know that it's a Dreamcast exclusive that I don't own. And I want to as well. I've played it and it's not as good. And I think this is a thing. This is something we mentioned in the same context in Tomb Raider without being so specific about it. Both Tomb Raider and Crazy Taxi are lessened by what's added to them.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean with that.
Obviously, a sequel has to have things added to it, otherwise no one's going to pay money for it.
Well, in a lot of cases, it's something that was left out of the original because they didn't have the time or the development cycles or whatever.
Countless examples of sequels that are better than the originals, both technically and in terms of enjoyability and all that. I think Crazy Taxi absolutely is not one of those games. Crazy Taxi, the original, is perfect, basically. If by adding things to a game you make it worse, all that can mean is that the original was perfect. And I think in retrospect, probably should have said the same thing about Tomb Raider as well.
Yeah.
Crazy Taxi 2, which I played, is, it's close, but the map's not as good, and the Crazy Hop is quite good fun, but it's not, it doesn't add that much.
Has it got a silly sound effect like the thing in Speed Racer? That's obviously a rip-off from.
I can't remember. I don't think it has. I think it's all very much in keeping. And the music is Offspring and Bad Religion again. It's a good game. And I did only play it a very long time ago. I played it, again, talking about piracy, burnt it onto a disc to play on my Dreamcast. But I've since thrown it away because the discs don't. I think they make it run faster or read differently than it should, and it will fuck your Dreamcast hard.
Oh, right.
In the long run, it's not a good thing to do.
Oh, okay.
So from all of my old burnt discs are in the bin.
So like a software overclocking or something.
Yeah, it just makes the way the disc. I didn't want to dig too much into it, but I dug enough into it to find out that yes, this is an actual thing and not just scaremongering. And then threw all my burnt discs in the bin, never to be played again.
Fair enough.
But I've got 51 Dreamcast games. I think that's probably enough. So it was a long time ago I played it, and it's more Crazy Taxi, but it doesn't have that bottled lightning feel about it, and it introduces not just the Crazy Hop, but the mechanic where you can pick up like little gangs.
Oh, groups of people.
Groups of people. Yeah,
that sounds quite fun actually.
Yeah, it works really. You pick them up as a group and drop them off individually. So it's like a pub run basically when you get a cab back from the pub. But it's kind of it's a bit limiting because you're stuck with them for the entirety of getting rid of those three people. You're taking yourself out of the gameplay loop, which is go A to B, pick somebody else up, A to B, pick somebody else up, and you take yourself out of that, and you're driving past other people and things. And again, as we said, it's one of those things. It's an addition, and it's an involvement. There's a new word for everybody.
Evolution.
An evolution. It's the actual word.
An evolvitude.
It's an involvement, but it isn't an improvement, I think, is probably the two words that I was portmanteauing together. An evolution, but not an improvement. An involvement. I love it. I'm having it. So that's my word. That's
Eventually, this podcast is going to become nothing but nonsense words that you've made up. And self-referential jokes that nobody gets unless they've listened to every episode.
I watched a video of a guy who ranked the Crazy Taxi games, and he said that 3 was the best one.
Really?
And his argument for that was it's technically more proficient because, you know, it's 3 years later, whatever it was. It's in proper HD and all that sort of stuff, and it's got the original map in it.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I think it's a fair argument, but I disagree because it's when you play it, you're playing a different game. You've got the crazy hop, the jump move is in it. It looks slightly different. It's not the same thing. It doesn't have the same songs. It's, again, I know I completely overuse the term, but it's not that Bottled Lightning. It isn't exactly the same, so it feels less.
Yeah. See, as far as I'm concerned, it's only ever been one game.
Yeah.
The whole series doesn't exist for me. I played the first one, and that's it.
I was, you know, when after we decided to do it, and I sort of went and had a look, I was just like, yeah, I was exactly the same. As much as I played Crazy Taxi 2, I didn't play it for long, and it didn't really stick with me.
Yeah.
It is Crazy Taxi, isn't it? It's just,
yeah.
Again, that unit, that moment in time, that single thing in all its perfect glory. And it, even the other versions, what other things it's been released on? It's been released on Windows and released on the PS2. And even those are lesser than the Dreamcast version. They're not even sort of at the time. I think the PlayStation 2 one's got the right music on it, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
It doesn't look quite as nice. The PlayStation 2 never looked as good as the Dreamcast.
I would probably say, is it because it's the controller? Because the Dreamcast controller works perfectly for Crazy Taxi. You've got that nice tactile, springy throttle trigger button, the sort of clunky buttons for the gear change. And that wouldn't work too well with the PlayStation's back buttons.
No,
They're not even clicky, are they? They're just sort of...
No, that's fair, I think, yeah.
You don't have an analog trigger. I mean, you're not using it as an analog trigger in that game. It's on or off.
No, exactly, yeah.
But the feel of it, that feel of pressing that in was really good.
Absolutely. Have you played any of the sequels, Crazy Taxi 2, 3, any of the other games?
I've never played them. And there is a fair list of them as well, which I was quite surprised by. They don't all sound brilliant.
So, I mean, let's not even mention the mobile games because well, you can't play them anymore.
No. I mean, we've said this before about games being delisted that will be lost to time. Somebody in the world had that as their favourite ever game and they can never play it again.
There is going to be at some point very soon a retro mobile game swelling. There are people who were kids whose first game was on a mobile that they can't play anymore, and I assume there is a way to emulate old versions of Android and iOS. And I think that if there isn't already, there will be a bit of a groundswell in that. But yeah, those games you can't play them anymore, so let's not even bother talking about them because it's sad and I hate it, and it's very much not on my vibe as somebody who's got, you know, a massive collection of physical games and still buys games physically whenever he possibly can. The idea that you are just buying a license for a game and that can be ended and taken away from you by the publishers or developers whenever they feel like it.
Surely there must be some sort of agreement that you sign to give them those sorts of rights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who in their right mind would tick, I accept these terms and conditions without reading them?
Who would do that?
I've never read an end user license agreement, nor will I.
Wasn't there a thing recently where somebody won something very valuable because it was in the end user license agreement for something? This is a really shit story because I don't know any of the details. But there was somebody who read an end user license agreement and in it said, contact us on this number or this thing and you will win X. Yeah. And they did. And they were the only person to do it.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, the mobile games you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
So they don't exist.
Which I'm not overly bothered by because they sound bad anyway.
No, they don't sound great, do they?
No.
So there was Crazy Taxi 1, 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. Weirdly, Crazy Taxi 3 got released in the arcade after the Xbox version, which is an odd development. I know that much.
Interesting.
I know there was a Game Boy Advance version.
That's Crazy Taxi Catch a Ride.
Awful.
Is it?
Let's not pretend that I don't love anything Game Boy related. Yeah, it's just, again, it's a bad decision. They tried to recreate it as
on hardware that couldn't do it.
Not even close.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to sort of... And part of me is going, do you know what? I admire the effort, but it was never going to work. And so it chugs along at a horrible frame rate. It's not actually 3D. It's sprites trying to look 3D. Mm-hmm. It's just, it was a bad decision.
Yeah.
Really, really was. Not that there weren't options. They could have done a top-down game on the Game Boy Advance. They existed. There's a standalone Grand Theft Auto game on the Game Boy Advance, which I think is just called Grand Theft Auto Advance, which is top-down, but it gives the impression of existing in a 3D world, even though it's top-down, and that sort of thing would have worked great for Crazy Taxi. What else was there? I'm going to try and guess them all.
I mean, if we're discarding mobile versions, and there's only one left, really.
Oh, Vita? Was it on the Vita?
Maybe. What came before the Vita?
The PSP, which I have played. I played it because, apologies to, I don't know, again, patent lawyers, maybe something. The PSP is such an easy game to pirate things for. It's fucking ridiculous. Literally load the game onto a memory stick and play the game. Pretty much, yeah. You have to do a little something else first, but that's pretty much it. So, yeah, apologies. Buy your games, kids. Never ever pirate for current hardware. That is literally theft. As soon as you can't buy games from a shop, then pirate to your heart's content, because, well, buying a game secondhand, the company aren't getting any money for it. So pirate it.
And that's killing the games industry. Because there's no money in games anymore. Fucking hell. So anyway, yeah, that was Crazy Taxi Fair Wars.
Yes.
On the PSP.
I'd say I played it, but not for very long.
Any good?
All I can remember about it, when you first start it, you think, this is amazing. This is Crazy Taxi, you know, that were handheld and it looks great. But there are fewer passengers.
Okay.
And I can't tell you if there's any other differences in the games. I think it's Crazy Taxi 1 and 2 together, isn't it?
Yes. Combines the games Crazy Taxi and Crazy Taxi 2.
So there are fewer passengers is the one thing I remember, and I don't think the music's right either. Because there are fewer passengers, that thing you're talking about where there's a passenger inside the circle where you're dropping somebody off, and all that sort of thing is gone. And sometimes you'll drop somebody off and it's a long way until you see somebody else. And that's, driving around looking for a passenger is not what Crazy Taxi is about. Yeah.
That's late game when you've gone back to an area that you've been to previously and taken the only person there.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't happen right away, and that's what I remember about it. And it's pretty impressive. Technically, it does look a lot like the Dreamcast version, but that is a very basic thing that completely breaks the gameplay. And it's that thing, isn't it? We talk about how we've both stuck it on this week and played it and loved it instantly. I didn't feel that for it. It was more of a, this is quite impressive that it's running on a little handheld, rather than I love this game, which is what happened 5 seconds into playing it earlier this week when I turned my Dreamcast on, and then quickly gone into, how do I do that fucking boost thing again?
Oh, you missed out a step. You turned your Dreamcast on, your VMU beeped because it hasn't had a new battery for 17 years.
I went for a thing first. I found my VMU that had my original save on and make sure it wasn't plugged in because I wanted to come at it fresh. I haven't plugged it back in yet. I want to see what my fucking scores are for those mini games.
I'd love to know what your longest jump is on the.
I've got a funny feeling it's 400 and something. It's huge.
I managed 350 earlier today.
Oh really?
Which I was quite happy with.
I must admit, when I played it, it was early on in my reintroduction to Crazy Taxi, and as soon as I beat what you needed to, I was like, next, let's move on. The interesting thing about on Crazy Taxi 3, it's much better at indicating when you've pulled something off properly. Yeah,
it actually tells you rather than...
Yeah, it's like it's got burning, the wheels burn up when you hit the boost, and it doesn't really... There's a bit of a sound change, but it's much harder to pick up on the Dreamcast. It's not much harder to know you've been successful. But apparently, if you've got the rumble pack, it rumbles when you get it right. I don't have a rumble pack. It's one of the few accessories I don't have.
Oh, of course, it was an add-on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like it went in the memory card slot.
Yeah, like the N64 did a similar thing, if I remember right.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Have you seen Taxi Chaos?
No, I haven't seen Taxi Chaos.
Taxi Chaos is a Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC game, which is kind of like an evolution of Crazy Taxi. It doesn't look as good, but it looks playable.
Jet Set Radio's got the same thing. There are a fair few games that...
Yeah, is it Hi-Fi Rush or something?
Hi-Fi Rush is the newest one and is apparently very good, but there are a few
Yeah, I've got
others, and there have been a few others over the years that have tried to capture that same thing and never quite managed it.
Yeah. I think this is probably a similar thing. It's trying to be a spiritual successor to it, but just isn't quite right. It's not quite there. It's also 20 quid on Steam, whereas Crazy Taxi was 6.
Yeah, I know which one I'd buy.
Easy choice. But apparently there is a new Crazy Taxi game coming out. Currently in development, multiplayer, open world. God knows how that's going to work.
This is this thing. Sega announced that they were going back to their old and released a trailer even that turned out in the fullness of time to be not real footage, basically. It wasn't game footage. Obviously it was real. Nobody imagined it. But it was not in-game footage of these new games, and there was a Jet Set Radio, a Crazy Taxi, and a couple of others as well.
Shinobi, was one of them.
Like you, nobody really knows what to expect from it, and it's because it could end up being some hideous games as a service thing, or it could end up being completely new versions of those games with that multiplayer open world thing, and it could end up being brilliant. But it's, I think, personally, my expectations are extremely low.
Yeah, because I'll hold my breath.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I won't hold my breath.
Yeah. No, hold your breath. That'd be fun.
I'll hold my breath until it comes out. Starting now.
Yeah, so nobody really knows what to expect. Nothing. That was over a year ago, that announcement, and nothing new has been said about them since then. Yeah. So it's all a bit odd. But
to be fair, I mean, if that was very, very early days and they're just announcing that this is what we're working on and we've only just started, most games are in development a couple of years.
Well, I think to try and look on the bright side of it, a few years ago, Capcom said we're going to stop developing brand new IPs and titles and focus on our existing catalogue. And I and most of the internet went, oh, for fuck's sake, just do something original, will you? That's what everybody wants. And what they've turned out is, again, I've not played them personally, but what have been widely regarded as some of the best Resident Evil games of the whole lot, amongst other things. And so I think, there is hopes that Sega will do right by these franchises. I'm just not sure they've got enough about them as a company anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm trying to stay as positive as possible because, a new Jet Set Radio, a new Crazy Taxi has more chance of being good than no Jet Set Radio or no Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, I'd rather a game come out and it not be quite what I want than nothing.
Yeah.
Repeatedly said about Captain Commando never being brought back into the game world.
When a game, as we've both said, is as perfectly realised as Crazy Taxi, it almost feels not worth mentioning anything else, doesn't it? It is just that good. It is just so. There's not a lot you can say about it because fun's a difficult thing to talk about, and we could talk about how we've talked about the music. It's all very much blue skies and brilliant people, and then it's just absolutely loaded with personality of every kind, and there's nothing we can say. I don't think you would take a fucking poet of massive talent to be able to describe what Crazy Taxi is like to play in words. And I am not that person.
I are not that person.
That not be me. So yes, I think all we can do is if by some miracle anyone listening to this has not played Crazy Taxi, find a way to go and play Crazy Taxi.
It's £6 on Steam.
It's £6 on Steam, and there are free mods available on the community that will bring it closer, if not to the exact same experience that it was in 1999. Let's talk about what we're going to do next.
Well, that's up to you.
It is up to me. I was thinking about doing back-to-back Dreamcast and going Jet Set Radio.
Oh, okay.
Still thinking about that. I'm not 100% decided. I'm drawn towards Soul Blade.
Oh, okay.
Street Fighter 2 was like the second, third episode, wasn't it?
Wasn't it technically episode 1?
Let's go with Soul Blade. Soul Edge. Soul Blade. Whichever name you want to call it. I think the first two, at least, the sequels are from 2 onwards, as in the one that's labelled Soul Calibur 2 onwards, are definitely of a type, and the first 2 games are... Yeah, let's do that. Let's do those couple of beauties. bit of PlayStation / Dreamcast crossover action.
That'd be fun because I've played Soul Blade recently on an emulator. I played Soul Calibur fairly recently. I've also played Soul Calibur 6, I think is the one that I got last.
Oh wow, really?
So I'm sort of up to date with that. Soul Calibur to me is as Tomb Raider was to PS1. It's the game that made me go out and buy one.
Yeah.
I borrowed a friend's Japanese Dreamcast and Soul Calibur before it had come out over here for like a weekend and was just blown away. Couldn't believe it.
I saw it in a shop and was the same. I was like, how is this even possible? It's such a beautiful, beautiful game.
I think the jump from PlayStation to Dreamcast / PS2 probably the biggest generational leap.
Yeah.
Because everything from then's gone up. Obviously, they've progressed, but that was more of a jump. Like
I can't agree, because I think obviously SNES to PlayStation, it was basically 2D to 3D, which was pretty chunky. But I think once you're in the world of 3D, PlayStation to Dreamcast was like, you're absolutely right, a huge step. Yeah. And then it's just been incremental ever since, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, refinement.
Yeah, completely agree. Yes.
Even absolutely. VR, the worlds you walk around in VR are still just those same 3D worlds that
absolutely.
We're already walking around in.
This is the sad thing about VR, where it's the potential seems massive. What they're doing is recreating games that already exist and putting you in it rather than watch it, which is really sad, because the potential is there to do much more interesting things than that.
Yeah.
So I just want to say a quick hi to Gunter from a Discord that I'm on, who gave me some feedback and talks about how thought we would be trying to tie the cocktails more thematically into games rather than just picking pun names. Sorry to disappoint you, but I think we're going to be sticking with the pun name.
Very much so.
Very much so. And this is our MacGuffin. This is our gimmick, that we talk about games and then time to a cocktail. And Mr. Gunter points out that it seems like an afterthought. I 100% get that sometimes this bit, because it's normally the last 10 minutes of the show, it can seem like an afterthought. I get it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't.
It is good fun, I must admit.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it's a stretch to find something or really put any thought into it.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because, cards on the table, it's quite difficult to find a fucking pun. Let alone to try and tie a game thematically into Crazy Taxi and everything.
Well, the thing is as well, you've either got to know the drink already and think, oh, this will pair perfectly with that game.
Yeah.
Or you've got to already have some sort of idea of, or even an anecdotal story of something you drank while playing a game. It's kind of already got to be pre-existing, otherwise it will be an afterthought. It will be something you have to look up and find sort of kind of on the day for me.
And here we are on episode 21, and I like cocktails, and I would struggle to name 21 cocktails off the top of my head of any sort, let alone tying into a game. And I just want to make it clear, I 100% see the point. I completely get it. But I think until someone is paying me to do this podcast, this will remain the format.
And while we're at it, you can pay me for doing some of the editing and whatever else.
So I 100% see your point. I think what it also allows is, I think there are more people interested in the games than they are in the cocktails, and it enables them to just stop fucking listening 3/4 of the way through if they want to, doesn't it? And I'm all right with that. But I really, really genuinely appreciate the feedback we get. Here we are at the drink section of the show, and Dave has already written his in the spreadsheet that we were just looking at to choose the games. So I know what his is, and luckily it's not the same one as me, again, brilliantly. So with that in mind, Dave, I will let you go in your traditional spot of first.
Yeah, cheers. It's a pun. It's usually a pun, but also it's a visual link because the picture of this drink on Difford's sums up Crazy Taxi perfectly. It's bright, it's brash, it's very orange, and the drink itself sounds like it's sort of on a par with the game. It's passion fruit juice mostly, 45 ml of that, 60 milliliters of light white rum, so Bacardi or any other white rum.
That exactly what Bacardi. 100%.
30 milliliters of Cocoa Canoe coconut rum, which is fun to say.
But also, everyone will use Malibu.
60 milliliters of orange juice, 60 milliliters of cranberry juice, 45 milliliters of lime juice, and then for some reason, because it's not fucking sweet enough already, 22.5 milliliters of Monin grenadine syrup.
Oh, good old grenadine.
I think you could take that out. I don't think you need that.
Possibly.
Served in a hurricane glass. I do like an interesting glass.
Oh, it's a tiki cocktail then.
Yes, it's very much a tiki-looking cocktail.
Yeah. With
the completely non-pun name of Jamaican Me Crazy.
Oh, yeah, nothing fun about that. So.
But to be fair, the name aside, this looks like a Crazy Taxi cocktail. The picture on Difford's is just, like I say, bright, orange, very fruity, very zesty. Sounds delicious as well.
Oh, yeah. I have it up in front of me, and as much as I'm not a fan of coconut run, I am a big fan of passion fruit. So I think
passion fruit, orange, cranberry. That sounds really nice.
That sounds like a proper.
That's a Caribbean cruise drink. It's a boat drink.
Boat drinks, yay!
But yeah, that's my choice for this week, and like I say, I'm going to try and get hold of all those various juices. Never go making one of them because that sounds delicious.
Not difficult, I don't think. Grenadine is a bit fruity, but I don't know how you would pick it out whether it was there or not with cranberry juice in there and orange juice as well, which is where sort of grenadine
and lime juice. Lime juice is very strong.
There's a lot of lime juice too. So I think with that and the passion fruit, that's actually going to be quite zesty as well as sweet.
Yeah.
But no, that sounds very, very drinkable. That sounds like something I could get quite happily hammered on.
That sounds something like you make a bucket of that for a barbecue and sit there with a massive straw.
Right. Yeah.
Do your entire ice cube tray into it. Just looking at the alcohol content and nutrition of this. One serving is 326 calories.
That's wow.
It's just alcohol, sugar, and fruit.
And it sounds lovely. My cocktail.
What you got for us?
So I think we've had for a couple of weeks in a row, we've had non-Difford's cocktails, haven't we?
Well, I brought it back this week.
Yeah, and me too. So I was down to a couple, both from Difford's, having tried them both, which was really nice that I was able to, I had the ingredients to try them both, weirdly, so particularly considering a couple of the ingredients. The first one I looked at was just simply called the Taxi.
Okay, yeah, I found that. I didn't like the look of it.
I very much did like the look of it, but it's kind of, the ingredients are very similar to my favourite cocktail of all time, the Corpse Survivor No. 2, and it's not as good. A bit marred by the competition, which is a shame because it's a nice enough cocktail, but I'm just drinking it and going, this is not a Corpse Survivor No. 2, and it really could be with just a little bit more effort. So it's okay, very much in that vein, gin and absinthe and lemon juice and all that Corpse Survivor stuff, but I didn't go for that. It's also a bit more of a classic cocktail, a bit older than the one I went for, which was called the Yellow Cab.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, bloody lovely is what it is. It's again, it's gin. I know you're not a fan, but it's right on that edge of sweet and tangy, which again is very much my sort of thing. It uses a very specific sort of gin because it was invented by the company who makes something called Engine Gin, which looks cool. If you Google Engine Gin, it comes in a basically an old engine oil can designed container. Looks very, very cool.
Oh, nice. Oh, I like that.
I obviously didn't have that exact gin, but apparently its flavour profile is it has a sagey taste to it. So I just used my standard gin that I've got knocking around, my London Dry gin, and went and picked a couple of sage leaves out of the gun and bung them in the shaker when I made it. And it came through just a tin. It worked really well. So yeah, it's 50 ml of Engine Gin. Or as I say, I would just use it. Again, I couldn't tell you because I haven't tasted Engine Gin, but if the idea is that sage is its key thing, then bung a couple of sage leaves in your cocktail shaker as well. Limoncello, 10 ml. God knows why I've got limoncello in my cocktail cab. I'd never drink it, but there it was hanging around at the back, so that was handy. 20 ml of lime juice and 10 ml of agave syrup. I just use golden syrup. Not really much in it. I think agave is less processed, basically, but very similar tasting. So it's got a really nice, because limoncello is sweet and tangy anyway, and then lime juice is tangy and agave syrup is sweet. So 50 ml of gin, 10 ml of limoncello, 20 ml lime juice, 10 ml of agave syrup. And it's just, shake it, serve it over ice in an old-fashioned glass, basically, with a lot of ice, because it's actually quite a small drink. There's not a lot not to it. That's only 100 ml of drink. So
that's not a lot at all, is it?
No, it's not. You could fit that easily into a coupe glass if you left all the ice out. No problem at all. On Difford's thing, they serve it in a licorice sugar rim as the garnish. Actually, is licorice sugar a thing, or did they make it up? I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned,
not
licorice is aniseed flavour, so I just rubbed the top of my glasses rim with, not my rim, my glasses rim with absinthe and dunked it in sugar to try and sort of recreate that flavour. But it bloody delicious. Really, really is. For me, particularly, I think you mentioned last time out that I tend to like citrusy drinks, but it's a really nice balance of citrus and sweet at the same time.
Yeah,
very almost sort of like really good still lemonade tastes.
Well, I was going to say it sounds like it might be quite sharp because the limoncello and the lime
absolutely
would make quite a sharp tasting drink.
It is, but then the agave syrup really cuts through that, and limoncello's got some sweetness in it too. So it really is a really nice balance of those two things. And I don't think you could get much more obvious than a yellow cab, but I couldn't resist it once I'd seen it and saw both the name and the fact that it was like ticking my boxes in terms of flavours. I had to give it a shot, and it was so nice that I didn't look any further after that. Apparently, it specifically pays homage to Taxi Driver and Robert De Niro and the cab that he drove in that. So next time we're going to be talking about both Soul Blade or Soul Edge, that's just a different name for the same game, and Soul Calibur and the sequels a bit. Only Soul Edge and Soul Calibur fit into our definition of retro, so those will be the focus, but we're not going to ignore the others. Or perhaps quite a lot of other 3D games as well. We'll see what happens. It's all up in the air, like anybody after a big smack of Siegfried's massive sword. Anything to add, Dave?
No.
So see you next time on Cocktail Mode, the podcast where gaming, like alcohol, is in our blood.